Stop for a moment. Do not scroll. Do not rush past this like it is just another video fighting for a second of your attention, because if this reached you today, something inside you was already ready to hear it. Think of that one person now. See their face clearly. Notice what happens in your chest when you do. That pull, that ache, that strange mix of peace and pain. It is not nothing. It is not your imagination. And before you tell yourself to calm down, to be logical, to stop hoping, stay with me, because this part matters. Some connections do not enter your life to entertain you. They enter to change you. They shake your habits. They wake up your fears. They pull hidden truths to the surface. And if you have been feeling like this bond is bigger than your words, bigger than your plans, bigger than your ability to control it, then listen carefully. Because what feels delayed is not always denied. What feels confusing is not always wrong. Sometimes the love you are asking for does not begin by bringing two people together. Sometimes it begins by breaking the old version of you that thought love had to be chased, earned, begged for, or suffered for. And once that old version starts falling apart, everything changes. So take a breath. Keep listening. The next few minutes may explain why this connection feels so deep, why it hurts the way it does, and what must happen first before this love can finally become what it was always meant to be. When a connection is real, it does not only touch the sweet and easy parts of you. It reaches the places you tried to keep hidden. It brushes against old bruises. It stirs memories you never planned to revisit. That is why deep love often does not feel calm in the beginning. It feels intense. It feels messy. It feels like something inside you is being opened before you gave permission for it to open. A person who has spent years overgiving suddenly sees how tired they are. They realize how often they bent themselves into impossible shapes just to keep closeness from leaving. They notice how much of their worth was tied to being useful, patient, understanding, available, always there, always trying. And that realization cuts deep because it forces them to face a painful idea. Maybe they learned somewhere that being loved for simply being themselves was never enough. At the same time, the other person may be carrying a different wound that feels just as heavy. They may have survived by staying guarded, quiet, hard to read, hard to reach. Not because they do not care, but because caring once cost them too much. So when something real begins to grow, their body reads closeness as danger. Their heart says yes while their fear says run. And that is why one person moves closer while the other pulls back. It looks like mixed signals. It looks like imbalance. It looks like one cares more. But under the surface, two wounded hearts may be reacting to the same fear in opposite ways. The one who chases connection often believes love disappears if they stop working for it. Silence feels sharp. Distance feels personal. Uncertainty feels unbearable. So they explain more. They wait longer. They give more chances. They try to be softer, better, easier, safer, hoping that one day the other person will finally relax and stay. But this is where the lesson begins. Love cannot grow in a place where self-abandonment becomes normal. Love cannot become healthy if one person has to lose themselves just to keep the bond alive. And the one who pulls away is not always free either. They often carry the belief that if someone gets too close, they will lose control, lose space, lose themselves, or end up trapped inside pain they cannot manage. So they create distance. They go quiet. They pause. They disappear for a while. Yet even that distance does not bring them peace. It usually brings guilt, restlessness, loneliness. A quiet awareness that they care more than they know how to handle. That is why this kind of connection can feel so confusing. It is not always about a lack of feeling. Sometimes it is about too much feeling meeting old survival habits. Stay with me here, because most people miss this part. What looks like inconsistency is often fear. What looks like coldness is often protection. And what looks like rejection may simply be someone standing at the edge of real intimacy, unsure whether to step forward or run back into what feels familiar. Growth is not graceful at first. It rarely arrives looking wise. Most of the time, it arrives looking like confusion, silence, emotional overload, changing moods, and moments where nothing makes sense. Think about how transformation works in nature. Before something new appears, the old form has to break down. A seed splits open underground before anyone sees green. A caterpillar does not simply upgrade into wings. It dissolves first, and people are not so different. Before two people can hold a steady love, the false beliefs they built around love have to start falling apart. The belief that love must be earned. The belief that closeness is dangerous. The belief that waiting proves devotion. The belief that distance proves power. The belief that pain is somehow part of destiny. These ideas do not leave quietly. They resist. They create inner noise. They make the middle feel unbearable. But the middle is not the end. The middle is where hidden things are being exposed. It is where attachment begins to separate itself from genuine love. Attachment says, stay with me because without you I feel empty. Genuine love says, I want to meet you fully, but I am learning how to remain whole in myself. That shift is everything. And here is the turning point most people never see coming. It does not begin when the other person sends the perfect message. It does not begin with one magical conversation. It begins in private, inside you, the moment you stop living like your life is waiting for someone else to choose you and start choosing yourself with real honesty. That choice changes the whole energy of the connection. Not in a fake strategic way, not as a performance, not as a trick to make someone come back faster. It changes because your presence changes. When you stop reaching from fear, people stop feeling pressure around you. When you stop silently asking another person to fill the places you have been neglecting in yourself, the dynamic starts to breathe. For the first time, the other person is left alone with what they truly feel, not just what they fear, not just what they have been avoiding, but what is actually there. And what is there often has more depth than you think. Listen closely. The love you have carried through this has not been wasted. Not one late night, not one tear, not one moment of confusion. It all shaped you. It deepened you. It taught you where you still hand your worth away and where you still need to come back home to yourself. Those tears did not mean you were weak. They meant your heart refused to call something meaningless when it knew it was sacred. A lot of people shut down the moment love gets difficult. They become colder, harder, more detached. They convince themselves they never cared that much. But you stayed open, and yes, that openness has cost you. But it has also revealed your strength. Because in a world that rewards distance, pretending not to care and emotional self-protection, remaining soft without becoming foolish is a rare kind of power. Do not miss that. Your softness is not the crack in your armor. In many ways, it is the armor. Still, softness without self-respect turns into suffering. That is the part you must understand if this story is going to move where it needs to move. The path forward is not to love less. It is to love more wisely. It is to stop pouring everything outward while your own inner life dries out from neglect. So ask yourself something simple and honest. What do you need right now? Not what do they need. Not what could you say to finally make them understand. Not how can you become easier to choose. What do you need? Maybe you need rest. Maybe you need to reconnect with friends you pushed aside while your mind was lost in this one person. Maybe you need to return to the hobbies, goals, routines, and dreams that used to make you feel alive. Maybe you need to stop checking for signs and start building a life that has movement again. This is not giving up. This is not pretending the love is gone. This is expanding your life back to its full size so you do not keep living in a tiny emotional room built around one outcome. And when you do that, a quiet miracle starts to happen. You stop feeling like a paused life. You stop feeling like an unfinished sentence waiting for somebody else to write the ending. Your days gain color again. Your body relaxes. Your attention returns. Your spirit gets room to breathe. And that grounded feeling is powerful. People sense it. They may not know how to explain it, but they feel it. There is something deeply magnetic about a person who is no longer begging life to begin. And yes, the person you care about feels that shift too, often more strongly than anyone else. Let me be clear, though. This is not a trick to force a reunion. If you turn toward yourself only to secretly control the outcome, you are still centered on fear. Real change happens when you begin to value your own life again for its own sake. When you stop thinking of self-care as a waiting room and start living like your life matters now, whether the connection resolves today, later, or in a completely different way than you expected. This is where the energy becomes clean. This is where the bond stops feeling like a wound you keep touching and starts becoming a mirror that showed you what needed healing all along. And there is something else you may need permission to understand. The other person is not always the villain in this story. Hurt can make it easy to reduce people into simple roles. One person good, one person bad, one person faithful, one person cruel. But real life is often more layered than that. The distance you felt from them may not have come from indifference. It may have come from fear they have been carrying for years, maybe long before you ever arrived. Some people learned very early that love is unstable, painful, expensive, or unsafe. So when something true appears, they do not relax into it. They tense up inside it. They care, and then they panic because caring wakes up every old memory of loss. They want closeness, but they also fear what closeness might demand from them. That does not excuse harmful behavior. It does not mean you should accept crumbs. But it does mean their confusion is not proof that you are unlovable. Please hear that part clearly. Their fear is not evidence against your worth. And this matters because one of the biggest mistakes you can make is allowing someone else's unresolved pain to become the story you tell about yourself. If they pull away, you assume you are too much. If they go quiet, you assume you are not enough. If they hesitate, you assume your value dropped. But no, their unfinished work belongs to them. You cannot heal it for them, no matter how patient you are, no matter how loving you are, no matter how clearly you see what they need. Their road is theirs. Yours is yours. And your road now asks for dignity. It asks for steadiness. It asks for the kind of self-respect that does not collapse every time another person gets confused. Imagine meeting this whole situation differently. Imagine refusing to let delay define your identity. Imagine holding yourself so well that whether they come closer or not, you do not lose your center. That is not coldness. That is maturity. That is emotional strength. And if they do eventually move through what has been holding them back, what they will meet is not a version of you worn thin by waiting, not a version of you hollowed out by longing, but a version of you standing in your own light, fuller, wiser, calmer, and truly ready. Stay with me because this next image matters. Picture a morning not far from now. You wake up and something feels different. The weight in your chest is gone, not because you stopped caring, not because you forced yourself to detach, but because the love finally has somewhere real to land. What was unresolved is no longer unresolved. What kept hanging in the air has finally taken shape. And you can breathe again. Picture looking at this person and seeing peace where you once saw hesitation, seeing presence where you once felt distance, seeing a full choice instead of half-hearted confusion. Imagine what that would do to your nervous system. Imagine a love that does not keep you awake at 2 in the morning, replaying old conversations, decoding silence, preparing for disappointment. Imagine a love where your body is finally allowed to rest. A love where you are not constantly asking if you are enough, because you are with someone who never treated your worth like an open question. That kind of love is not fantasy. But it cannot be built on 2 people arriving with unexamined wounds and expecting the other person to repair them. It is built when both people do enough of their own inner work to become available for something stable, something honest, something clean. And whether this particular person becomes that partner in the end depends on choices they must make for themselves. But your part is already clear. Every day you choose peace over panic, self-respect over chasing, and truth over fantasy, you are laying the foundation for the kind of love that can actually last. Every day you stop collapsing into worry and start returning to your own life. Something solid is being built beneath you. Do not let the hardness of this middle season fool you into thinking the destination is not real. The middle is always the foggiest part. It is the stage where nothing looks clear and everything feels delayed. But fog is not the same as failure. It is just a temporary condition before the road appears again. There is also something else I need to say, because too many people confuse intensity with destiny and suffering with depth. Just because a connection feels powerful does not mean you are supposed to disappear inside it. Just because the emotions are strong does not mean the pattern is healthy. Real love will not ask you to abandon your dignity over and over again. Real love will not feed only on your patience while giving you almost nothing steady in return. Real love may have timing issues, healing seasons, pauses, and hard conversations, yes. But it should still move toward truth. It should still move toward clarity. It should still move toward mutual responsibility. So while you hold space for possibility, do not worship potential. Do not build a whole future out of fragments, mixed signals, and imagined endings. Keep your eyes open. Keep your heart open too, but not so open that your standards fall out. This balance matters. It is possible to care deeply and still require honesty. It is possible to understand someone's fear and still protect your own peace. It is possible to love without chasing. In fact, that is often where your real power begins. Because when you stop trying to rescue the bond every moment it feels shaky, you finally see what is actually standing on its own. You see whether the connection has roots or only drama. You see whether the other person is capable of meeting you or only capable of stirring your hope. That clarity can be painful, but it is also freeing. And freedom is not the enemy of love. Freedom is what allows love to become real instead of obsessive, mutual instead of one-sided, grounded instead of constantly hungry. Maybe this season has already stretched you more than you thought you could handle. Maybe there were nights when you felt foolish for caring this much. Maybe there were mornings when you promised yourself you would stop thinking about them, only to feel their absence again before the day was halfway done. That does not make you weak. It makes you human. But now your heart is being asked to grow in a new way. Not by feeling less, but by holding your feelings with more wisdom. Not by pretending you no longer want this, but by refusing to let wanting it rule your whole inner world. You can miss someone and still be present in your own life. You can love someone and still eat well, sleep well, laugh, build, create, and move forward. You can hope without putting your entire identity in the hands of an unanswered message. And if that sounds simple, it is not. It takes practice. Some days you will slip back into overthinking. Some days the silence will hit hard. Some days you will be tempted to make their uncertainty mean something final about you. When that happens, pause. Come back to yourself. Remember this. Your worth does not rise and fall based on who is ready to recognize it. Your value is not on trial. Your heart is not too much. Your depth is not a problem to solve. The right love will not ask you to shrink your truth. It will not ask you to speak in half-tone so that someone else never has to face their own fear. And until that right love arrives in full form, your job is not to sit still and ache. Your job is to become deeply loyal to your own life. That loyalty changes everything. It changes how you walk into a room. It changes the kind of people you attract. It changes what you tolerate. It changes how long you stay in places that only feed your anxiety. And most of all, it changes the story you live inside. Instead of saying, "My life starts when this person chooses me," you begin saying, "My life is already happening, and anyone who wants to stand beside me must meet me in that aliveness." That is a powerful shift. It is quiet, but it is powerful. And if this connection is truly meant to grow into something steady, that shift is not a threat to it. It is what gives it a chance to become healthy. Because no lasting bond is built from one person begging and the other person hiding. It has to become two people choosing, two people standing in truth, two people meeting from fullness instead of fear. So if you have been waiting for a sign, maybe this is it. Not the sign to chase harder, not the sign to decode every little signal, the sign to come back home to yourself with both feet. Read that again in your heart. Come back home to yourself. Put your energy where it can grow something real. Care for your body. Clean up your routines. Rebuild your focus. Return to your joy. Say yes to the parts of life you kept postponing. Let your world become wide again. Because when your life expands, you stop treating love like a rescue mission. You start seeing it as a meeting place. And that changes not only what you attract, but what you are finally able to receive. So if you are in the middle of this right now, hear me closely. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not cursed to keep missing the love that seems easy for everyone else. You are in a process, and the middle of a process often feels like a punishment when it is really a preparation. Important things take shape in hidden places first. Roots grow in darkness before branches ever touch the sun. And maybe that is what is happening here. Maybe this whole season has been teaching you how to stop betraying yourself in the name of connection. Maybe it has been teaching the other person what love looks like when it is no longer mixed with pressure, fear, and emotional chasing. Maybe both of you are being brought to a point where love can finally arrive clean. Or maybe this path is preparing you for a love that fits you even better than the one you have been imagining. Either way, your healing is not wasted. Your honesty is not wasted. Your patience is not wasted if it brings you back to yourself. Keep going. Keep choosing peace. Keep becoming someone who does not need to beg for what is meant to stay. Keep becoming someone whose heart stays open but whose standards stay strong. Because what is truly yours will not require you to destroy yourself to reach it. What is truly yours will meet the version of you that learned how to stand, how to breathe, how to trust, and how to love without leaving yourself behind. And when that moment comes, whether with this person or through a love even greater than you expected, you will understand why this had to happen first.